Folks. Hi, I am so sorry to be a few minutes late. I had a work meeting that was backed up right to my start time. So I didn't have a chance to set up my second camera. My apologies, but it is a very exciting day. I love Whip Wednesdays because it is dedicated sewing time. I am making so much progress on all of my UFOs. I have a couple quilts that are ready for borders, but it's the beginning of the month, which means that it is time for the puzzle mystery quilt from Cotton Cuts. And we are in month 7 of the Wild West block puzzle mystery quilt, block of the month. And I am sewing with tumbleweed fabrics. And these are such a gorgeous collection of blues with some of these greens and creamy neutrals. And actually, I goofed last month and started sewing Clue 7 and then set it aside because I messed up on a couple colors or thought I messed up and realized that I was actually sewing a month ahead. So we're back on track. So part of it is this long strip with just one little triangle there. And I think this is going to end up being some kind of feather aspect in the overall quilt, just because of the way these half square triangle units are attached and what they look like. So I thought I messed up because I put these two pieces together with this green fabric touching, and the way the instructions were written, you were supposed to put them together so that this blue was touching. But as you can see, you have to add those extra pieces on either end. So rather than having my left hand pair and my right hand pair meet in the middle, I sewed the middle section first and I'm adding on the ends. So that's the sewing that I'm going to be doing first here for my I'm actually on step 4 and 5 of Clue 7 for the small Wild West. Get all my labels out there. And Cotton Cuts has been so fun. They send you pre-cut pieces, which means you can just sit and sew, which is wonderful for a busy working woman here in the middle of the week. So with those pre-cut pieces and my instruction sheet ready to go, I can just sit and sew and have so much fun. So let me know what you are working on today. Have you started any new block of the month projects for 2025? I have a temperature quilt in the works. I sewed part of January and I have all the temperatures written down, but I need to sit down and sew, making just tiny little units for each day. It doesn't, it would literally take me 5 minutes if I were going to sew one block every day because I'm using my half rectangle triangle units. So I tend to let them build up and then, I'm going to have a month to do here pretty soon. I think I did through the 15th or 16th of January. I got them all sewed together. So I have a partial row ready for my temperature quilt. But I will need to do an update on that soon. And then I've got these block of the month from Cotton Cuts that I am so enjoying. And I'm losing pieces here already. What did I do? Seriously. Oh, they landed on my lap. I needed my cream colored fabric. I saw some, we're making more HSTs. So yeah, it was really crazy at work today because there was nothing going on all morning. Just kind of twiddling my thumbs. And then I knew I had my meeting that went from 3 to 4, and then I was coming here at 4 Mountain Time. So I knew that the afternoon was going to be rushed, but days like that just throw me off. I'd rather have a steady flow with, time in between events and not have back-to-back stuff. I've gotten very spoiled working from home. I left a job as a high school teacher, and you're just, how many teachers out there made copies in between classes. I'm glad those kind of hectic days are over. So, having to go from log off my work computer and log on to my YouTube channel is not very stressful. Okay, so I've got all of my same color squares almost sewn together now. And this is what they look like. I love those slants, how are they having us press? I always like to follow the pressing diagrams if they're given in the patterns. So it's actually having me press to this green fabric. And my finger press here while I'm on camera. Hello, Annette. Yep, that's what Wednesdays are for, Floral States and Wild West. And next week we should be getting our flyway fabrics, because that is the next mystery from Cotton Cuts, and that is shipping on Friday, I think Kim said. Okay, and then we just have to line up these other half square triangles on the end of our long units here. Okay, and then this. Annette, did you see the Quilted Summit that was going on yesterday and today. That's the other competing interest for people this afternoon, are the last couple sessions of that virtual quilt conference, I guess, whatever the terminology is for summits. And Annette saying she chose Team Drifter to work with Art Gallery Fabrics for the flyway. I'm anticipating a lot of flying geese, although Kim from Cotton Cut said that there'd be some big solid pieces. She's cutting large squares with her new die cut machine at Cotton Cuts. So, okay. So they had us put a light square on the end, and then we are going to come in with our other square and add that to the other side of the Annette, are you sewing with both hands yet, or are you still limited in your mobility after your elbow surgery? Yes, Annette was saying she didn't want to stress about attending the quilted recorded sessions right when they went live. So that is the nice thing about online summits. When you have these, like if I'm going to QuiltCon and there are different lectures and things, and you kind of are rushing from one session to another to make sure you see all the wonderful quilt teachers that you can in person at an event like QuiltCon. But when they're recorded, it's nice to be able to space the lessons out throughout the day and catch the ones live that align with your schedule. And they have a replay option. So there are 24 hours left to watch the replay. So if you wanted to pull an all-nighter and watch the recordings, you can go to quiltedsummit.com and watch those. Oh my goodness. Lots and lots of recovery. I didn't realize it was going to be that long of a period, Annette. I am so sorry that that it's taking that long, but on the other hand, you want to have a full recovery. So I will not, I will encourage you to take your time. Okay, so we have our full strip of diagonal pieces. And don't you think that, when you get those pieces put together, they look like feathers? And let's see, this one, we're going to sew that right together with this other piece. And let me get that lined up. And I am going to put in some pins because I want I want to be able to ease in when we have half of this strip that is all half square triangles and the other half is a solid piece of fabric. You have to kind of ease that in and make sure everything stays lined up. So that is what I am pinning here to do, and then I'm also spending time piecing because the project that I'm working on my long arm needs a bunch of seam ripping. So I'd rather be sewing than unsewing. So that's kind of what I'm doing these days. But when you have a project to rip out, it's better just to spend the time, rip it out, and then get started again with good tension and everything lined up the way it's supposed to be. And making the small size of these cotton cuts projects means that the clues go together really fast. Because I only have these 2 units to do. I've done all the half square triangles, so and 2 long rows, and that's about it for this one. Here's a question for the group. Does your sewing machine have a name? And the reason I ask that is because I'm working on a Cotton Cuts kit, and Cotton Cuts has named their die cutting machine Rosie. And so that is floating in the back of my head that, Rosie did such a good job cutting these pieces of fabric. I don't name machinery. That's not something that was ever part of my growing up or family tradition. We have our cars, and that's that. We have lots of nicknames for our pets, but we don't tend to name our. So my sewing machines, these little ones that I piece on in my long arm, are nameless. This is also my favorite time of day when I'm able to log off of work and sew with everyone. The house is quiet. My daughter's at work, my husband's at work, and I can just sit and hang out with you guys. It's the best. So there is the clue 7 of the Wild West mystery. But can't you tell that kind of looks like an arrow? Let me get these 2 pieces out together, and maybe because I have made feather / arrow, the fletching, I think it's called, at the back of the arrow. I've made feathers and arrows in a quilt design that I've done before, and so there's the 2 pieces. You can't really, you'd have to put it like this and then they're going in the same direction. So if we did it if we tried to they still go in the same direction. I was trying to they'd have to be mirror image to do that. So there, clue 7 is done. It won't take you very long if you are working on clue 7 of the Puzzle Mystery Quilt. The other interesting thing that Cotton Cuts does with these mysteries, when they divide up the quilt for the different clues, you end up with, these fabrics. So I've got this floral at one corner, And another piece of that floral is at the opposite corner, but they're going in opposite directions, and that always makes me look twice that, you know, this triangle is pointed down and this triangle is pointed to the other direction. So just a lot of fun. I can't wait to see how this layout turns out, what the final design is going to be. Annette has named her sewing machine Lagertha. I'm not familiar with that famous shield maiden. So obviously I need to brush up on some of my history. There, Viking Celtic. What tradition is Lagartha? Okay, so much for that project. I'm all caught up with Wild West, and Annette is saying the directional fabric. Yeah, it's really hard to these flowers definitely have a direction, you know, with the stems and leaves of those flowers, and they just are going to go in all different directions on the final quilt. So okay, thank you for the education, Lagartha. If I'm saying that even remotely correct, the only other way I would think was Lagatha, if the R is a hard R or silent. So yes, if you're considering a mystery quilt with cotton cuts, take a look at the colors that they provide. You know, they give you these little swatches, but think about if there are any directional prints. And you couldn't really tell if this floral was going to be directional in that little snippet of the fabric. But, you know, they did include a stripe, but that stripe is the binding, which is fabulous. I love striped binding. And the way you can tell is in that 6 o'clock position. If this were an analog clock, down at that 6 o'clock position is always your binding. So these other 4 color, how many are there? Those other 6 colors are what shows up in the main body of the quilt, and then that is your binding. So a little tidbit if you're looking at these color wheels that Cotton Cuts provides. So hello to the other folks that have joined us this afternoon. Please say hello in the comments. Let me know what you're working on, where you're from, what the weather's like, you know, what you're looking forward to doing here in February. I am so glad you're with me. Whip Wednesday is my dedicated sewing time. I take an hour every week and try to work on my UFOs because I have way too much fabric and way too many unfinished quilts. I think it's like in the double digits when I think about all the different projects that I've started, gotten halfway into, and then, oh, the next shiny thing comes along. But speaking of block of the month, the first week of the month is my dedicated Cotton Cuts sewing time because I fell in love last year with the Floral States of America. And these are such cute, cute patterns. Let me get them all in order. We are going to work on 36 through 40 today. And we have Nevada, and they've got these gorgeous kind of Art Deco type postcards. Nebraska was 37, and we're jumping around because they released the states in the order that they joined the United States of America. So we started with Delaware, the first state, and then we have Colorado is number 38, North Dakota 39, and South Dakota 40. So I like to work on those in order. Nevada. I spent part of my childhood in Nevada. My dad was an Air Force pilot at Nellis Air Force Base. Hello, Patricia. You're also in Arizona. I am in Peoria. How are we? Close by neighbors, or how far would I have to drive? Typos in the chat make me chuckle. Okay, and so Nevada is going to be a nice block, kind of a quarter square triangle. The other thing that Cotton Cuts does that is really fun is they send these coloring postcards for a block of the month. And if you sew, they give you directions on one side, coloring page on the other side. If you make a block with, you know, your stash fabric or whatever, go ahead and post a picture in the Cotton Cuts group, because they give prizes to people who participate in their sewing events. So that's really fun. I'm really enjoying being an ambassador for Cotton Cuts. Patricia is in Bullhead City. Oh, nice. It's always fun to be near the little bit of water that's in our state, just down the road from Lake Havasu. Okay. So, yeah, and they put little trivia on the back of their postcards. So these are definitely collector items. I just love all the stuff that they have done here with this Floral States of America project. And they've given us some solid fabrics. We have white and navy blue and this pretty teal. And then, of course, you have the state flower is printed on fabric, and Nevada is sagebrush. So we've got that cute floral fabric there. Okay, so I have to pay attention now for a minute and get my pieces laid out. And we are going to make some flying geese. Annette, this is another project where the directional fabric is giving me fits, but I just can't obsess over it. So we just sew the seams and don't worry about anything else. Okay. So one of my flying geese is going to be sideways sagebrush. I suppose I could make two depending on how they, you know what? I'm not even going to worry about it. I'm just going to put the pieces together and sew. And when you get directional fabric that's going in odd ways, I always figure the quilt is going to get twisted and turned across your lap or on your bed. You know, it's not always going to be laying straight right side up. So you got to put in some of those twisted pieces so that it's right side up no matter which side of the quilt you're looking at. And I've got another block of the month starting with my guild. I go to an in-person quilt guild meeting every month. And they are starting a rainbow scrap challenge. So the idea is to use your stash, and each month we are picking a color. So they chose 9 colors, and each month we're going to draw one. And we're going to start off with blue, which makes me so happy. But I have way too many ideas floating around for what kind of blocks to make for my scrap quilt. I thought about paper piecing. I have a fun paper piecing pattern available on my website. I thought about doing that kind of as a promotion if people wanted to purchase the pattern and follow along. Hi, Tasha. Good to see you. Oh, Annette, good idea. She lays out all of the fabric pieces so the whole block is laid out, and then she can figure out how to sew it together. I say that I'm going to do it that way, and then I just turn it over and follow the directions as best I can. And if I end up seeing Jack along the way, Jack the Ripper, that sometimes happens. But I love not having to trim my flying geese, because when I make them from my own stash, I use a square and trim off that bonus triangle. And it is so nice to just work with triangles. So Tasha and I are both teaching in a new club. It is called the Fall in Love with Quilting Club. And these are online quilt lessons. And you get 2 to 3 lessons every month. It's a club that's going to run for a year. And it kicks off on the 9th. So this coming weekend will be the first lesson available. And I don't think I put the link in the video description today. I wasn't planning on talking about it, and then Tasha showed up and it came to mind. But I will have it. I didn't plan very well. I didn't realize that both Fall in Love with Quilting Club and the Quilted Summit were going to be running almost simultaneously. So that's getting a little confusing when I tell people, hey, join this free event, and hey, here, join this free event too. It gets to be a lot. So try to only talk about one thing at a time. But you'll hear the Fall in Love Quilting Club a lot because, as I said, it's going to run for a whole year. There's over 40 different quilt teachers that are sharing patterns and techniques inside that club. And it's a go at your own pace. So you can create your free account, get access to everything. And then if you only tune in once a month, the content is there for you. And there is a flying geese. That is the sagebrush fabric, which represents Nevada. And as we were saying, sometimes you get directional fabric that goes every which way when you're working with pre-cuts. And here is my sideways sagebrush fabric. Okay, so flying geese are done. Now I need half square triangles. So white and blue and floral and white. Okay, I think I can handle that. Don't be too mad at me, Tasha and Annette and everybody else that lives way up north, but it's 80 degrees in Phoenix right now. I saw on the news that it's, another major snowstorm is headed towards the Northeast United States. So sorry, but people tend to love where they live, and that's the great thing about this wonderfully diverse country. Something for everyone. People don't want to come down here and deal with my hot summers, and I don't want to deal with your snow. So we're all having fun for part of the year at least. Yes, Tasha, I am quite busy. My daughter's been complaining about her job and going to college. She's working about 20 hours a week and taking 4 classes. And it's her stress levels climbing up there. She was having trouble last week. And but then she says, she'd rather be busy than sitting around doing nothing. So it's like, kind of, yeah, you have to find that happy medium. Yes, Annette, you see the sunshine streaming in. Yes, Annette, you need to come down. Doesn't your mom live in Southern California? I have another online friend who just moved in between Phoenix and Tucson. I'm not going to say the name of the little town because no one outside of Arizona would understand or really care, but it's a little bit south of Phoenix, and she just moved here from South Dakota, so she is enjoying life. People that have been around the channel for a while may remember that I was in the Air Force and I was stationed in South Dakota for 2 years. Brutal, because it was minus 20 in the winter. We had a blizzard blow through. So yes, we had the blizzards in the winter that would send the temperatures way down below zero. And then in the summer, it got up to 107. So you had 100-degree temperatures, and no place had air conditioning because it's South Dakota and it shouldn't get that hot. But I mean, maybe they've changed. It's been quite a while since I lived there, so maybe everybody's upgraded to air conditioning. But that summer, oh my gosh, brutal. So yes, in Arizona, when it hits 110, we all stay inside with the air conditioning. And yes, some people do keep hot pads in their car to touch their their steering wheel. Yes, Annette is saying she'll visit her mom in Southern California when school gets out. Annette and I share that teaching background, but she's still in the trenches. I can happily say that I used to be a high school teacher. And Cotton Cuts, I love you, but every single month you do this to me. You tell me to press towards the light fabric. So I follow directions, but I'm not happy about it. I know they do that to make the whole block come out flat, but annoying. Especially on pure white, where you will see that shadow of fabric behind. Whoops, and then I did that one wrong. That one goes to the flower. flower. Yes, Tasha, she signed up for the flyway and they are mailing those out on Friday. So hopefully you will see it next week. Okay, now we're going to put these blue and white triangles next to our flowers. But we only need 2 of them. That's the other thing with, and see, we should have pressed to the blue, I'm telling you, because we get 2 seams laying on top of each other. Bulky. I didn't finish my thought. I'm counting out loud, Tasha. You have to pay attention to the piece count in the instructions because sometimes they'll give you 8 triangles and you only use 4 of them for a certain step and you have to keep the other 4 for a different step. And I have sewn all of them thinking that, oh, triangles, let's just make them all into half square triangles. Okay. Yeah, these go on. So what am I doing? I am making a broken dishes block or an hourglass block with these other half square triangles. So let's line it up the way they want me to. One of these days I'm going to have to test whether or not it's too loud with my ceiling fan on because as I mentioned, the 80-degree afternoon is very warm up here. For some reason, this is where all the heat or air conditioning comes in the house. And so it gets rather warm in this little corner. And everybody's like, Andy, we don't need the details on the temperature, just sew the fabric. But I ramble. That is the way it goes around here. So I made my little half block. And you could put these together as a pinwheel, but we are going to use the other layout. Just move it to the other side. For instance, you could have, whoops, how would that be a pinwheel? It wouldn't. It would just be like collections of half square triangles. And we do it this way. Whoops. This way, and it makes the broken dishes. Is that? Yes. Or we could have a pinwheel. It just is, you rotate the blocks. So we don't want a pinwheel. We want the hourglass. And then I have to check which side. I almost sewed the wrong side and got myself back to the pinwheel orientation. It's Tasha, we're not just ramblers. This is the stream of consciousness vlog style. We'll make ourselves sound a little more sophisticated. And yes, Freebird was so pretty. Yes, you're definitely on the adventure with those bright colors. I almost went for Phoenix, of course, being here in Arizona, but I wanted some softer colors for Flyway, and I am doing Odyssey, actually, the neutrals. So there is what one component looks like, one row. Which is actually going to be the outside edge of our block. Is anyone coming to Phoenix for QuiltCon? You need to leave me a note so that we can plan a meetup. I am doing a business workshop with my podcast partner. And then I will be enjoying the show on Thursday and Friday and going to classes on Saturday and Sunday. And I think we're going to have a group dinner on Thursday and Saturday. So if you want to be included in those plans, you will need to reach out to me, info@truebluequilts.com, and we will make sure everybody gets meetup times and locations for QuiltCon. Okay, and now we've gotten to the part of the block where you need a leader ender or some other project, because I need that piece that I just sewed. Because this hourglass section is going to be the center. And so we're putting flying geese on the two sides, and then we'll put the border row top and bottom. Okay, and I do have, let's see. I didn't match the point very well on that one, but you can line it up. You have to put your pin right through the intersection of your block. And get your pin coming right out from the point there, and then put it right into the intersection of your flying geese. Right through the point there. Now your points are matched up, and the pin, you keep it perpendicular. You keep it right lining those two fabrics up. And then I take another pin and pin to the right and to the left, and then I pull that middle pin out, because I pin with the head of my pin is still laying on the fabric. Some people pin from the right, I pin from the left. Don't ask me why, it's how my mom taught me. We're just kind of backwards that way. Big bulky seam there. My machine didn't want to go over very well. Okay, that one came out a little better. There's my 2 points, and we are pressing in towards the hourglass. Okay, and then I can put that last row on. See, when I make blocks like this, I tend to do them in quadrants. So I would have had all of this done with half square triangles. And then rather than have this big center unit with flying geese. But that's just how my mind works to put these blocks together. So this is more like a 9-patch unit where you have 3 rows of 3. And I would have done 4 groups of 4 if I were designing this block. But it's just your preference if you would rather make flying geese or half square triangles. And I don't mind either one necessarily, but now I have to line up that point in the center again. And yeah, that's going pretty well. The one thing about pinning from the right so that the head of the pin is off the fabric is it's easier to pull out with your right hand. I'm always doing it with my left hand and it gets, sometimes I just sew over it so that I have, because I can't always coordinate my left hand with the sewing machine. Wow, Annette, yeah. She's saying that she kind of downplayed her elbow surgery right after it happened. And that's fine, Annette. You need to keep your level of privacy where it needs to be. Oh no. Sorry, Patricia has to go in for a cataract redo because they didn't have the measurements correct the first time around. That's a bummer. Okay. 3/4 of the way done. One more row here and we will have Nevada complete. 36 of my 50 states. somehow I think I got behind, or maybe they're mailing it out today. I think I'm a little bit behind with the videos because this set of blocks was sitting on the counter for a while. But I guess February is 41 through 45, and then March will be the last set of 5. They did a 10-month series to get all 50 blocks in. And there were 2 layout options for the Floral State blocks. You could do an on point or a grid, a straight row option. I just butchered that point on my flying geese. Busy talking and not lining things up. And I think I chose the grid layout, and I'm actually wanting the on point. So I may be doing my own thing here for putting all the blocks together. Yep. That block missed the point. But when you stand back, you can't tell that I didn't get my points really, really exact. Annette will probably catch you up in chat, but she had and something happened at school, and she ended up falling and damaging her elbow, from what I remember. So that is the Nevada block. So pretty cool there. And as I have said, here, let me grab one of my other state. They gave us some extra pieces when we had fabric delayed, so I made a cactus with my cactus fabric. So that's going to be in there somewhere. And I am trying not to knock things over. I am writing the state names and the flowers somewhere in the block. So this was the Wisconsin block from last month. So I need to catch up on that part. And there were a couple blocks that they did not give us any white fabric in. So I'm thinking I need to figure out the alphabet on my machine and see if I can make a small little name of the state and embroider that in my block. Okay, so Nevada is done. That can get paired up with its postcard and put in the box. And husband's bringing home dinner. I don't have to cook, so I can hang out for a little while longer. Oh, fun. Nebraska. You can see that kind of radiating square. Hello, Sandy. Thanks for joining us tonight. And Nebraska is the goldenrod. And they gave us this pretty fabric to represent goldenrod on a nice peachy background. Warren Buffett is a famous person from Nebraska. And an interesting fact is that Kool-Aid was invented in Hastings, Nebraska. Interesting. So I'm trying to think if I have been to Nebraska. I don't think I have. That's one of the states I have not been to in my life. if I can get my husband to retire, and if I can build up some vacation time, we could take some road trips and hit all 50 states. We're going to take care of, I've been to Hawaii, and we're going to take care of Alaska next year. 2026 is my 25-year wedding anniversary. And so I've told him that I'm planning a Alaskan cruise as our celebration. Oh no, Annette, tackled by a football player, landed on her left elbow. Yikes. Yikes. Oh. All the way from her shoulder to her feet. Ouch. Okay, so I need to do flying geese again. Cotton Cuts loves their flying geese. I am one of those rare people who has never, well, I've had one very minor broken bone. When I was in kindergarten, I vividly remember this. It was an art class, and for some reason I was sitting or trying to sit on the table, and the table tipped, and somehow I landed on my head and broke my finger. In my memory, remember, I was only 5 or 6 years old. I broke my finger. It may have just been a sprain. I had one of those finger splints on. So I have never broken a bone. My brother's broken his arm several times, but I guess I wasn't very daring as a child. Yeah, Annette, you'll have to let me know how your cruise is. My big decision on the Alaskan cruise is when actually to go, because my anniversary is in July. So part of me is like, we should go in July. That's our anniversary. It's commemorative. Let's just do it then. But a friend was telling me that she went in September, and it was nice because there were fewer school age children. So if you want, kind of a more adult atmosphere, then perhaps the middle of summer is not the best time to plan the cruise. So we'll take that under advisement, and we have some time before we make our reservations, so we just have to decide. And mid to late August would work too. We'll also have to see what the temperatures are like. I mean, it's Alaska. We're planning to see glaciers, so we know it's not going to be warm, but my husband is not interested in freezing temperatures, so we need to think about that as well. And you can find, yes, Annette is traveling with Inspiration Cruises. You can definitely choose a cruise like Carnival cruises. Those are all going to be kid friendly, fun, wild, rockin' music all the time kind of party atmosphere. Whereas we've also done Royal Caribbean, and that tends to be a little more adult and calm. Yeah, and July is like winter in Arizona. Yeah, that's what I know. We're going to have winter weather. We'll think it's winter weather, but if we can avoid, freezing bitter cold, then that would be the way we want to do it. Okay, I am pressing toward the corners. Got to keep my attention on the quilting steps that I'm doing, as well as planning my fun vacations. Oh my goodness, you're doing lots of stuff with these little triangles. There is a flying geese for Nebraska with the goldenrod fabric. Flying goose if it's just one. And then we're going to make some more flying geese, but with a white base triangle first. Tasha was doing a sew every day in January challenge. And did you carry that into February, or have you taken a break, Tasha? Oh, but she's wrangling kids. So yes, have a good night. Take care of those kiddos. My January got a little bit derailed because my mother-in-law, who lives 10 miles away, fell and broke her hip. So we've been dealing with the elderly parent moving into not assisted living, but an independent living apartment complex. So we knew that we needed to get her out of her large house because it was just too much for her to take care of. And we had to, we were over there all the time taking care of her house in addition to our house. And that's just too much. So this apartment complex, senior living place is fabulous. It has a shuttle to her church. You can arrange for rides to your doctor. Once her leg heals, she will be able to have her car. If she's able to drive again, she can maintain her car. It's just going to be fabulous. She knows a lot of people that live there. So I think in the long run, it will be very good. But, losing your independence, having to give up your own house is a big transition at that stage of life. So that's kind of where my attention has been. And I gave her a quilt for Christmas. And when I took it over to her new apartment, she decided my daughter gave her the idea of hanging it on the wall. So now I have to add some corner loops so that we can hang it. And I haven't done that yet. So we'll see. We will see. Okay, so now I have my flying geese and my little half square triangle units. I can start putting together these kind of chevron units. And I just heard the front door close, so let me holler down to the family. I will put you on mute so that you don't have to hear that. Okay, so we have blue and white flying geese, and we have a bunch of half square triangles that press to the flower. Press to the flower. Okay, and then those go on the edges of so we're making these little corner units. We put two flying geese together to make a square and a square. And then I take my, whoops, we want this. We are not matching the points of our flying geese, which makes it so much easier to sew. See what I mean? You just have the base of your triangle, so you don't have to worry about matching that point. And again, they want you to go against my fabric just naturally wants to lay towards the goose, but they're telling me to press it the other way. So we'll see if it wants to. We can make it behave, but it doesn't want to. And there's our corner unit, whichever way around you want to think of that. So there is the center unit. Like I said, when I'm trying to press this down, it just makes that seem really bulky over that point. So I guess, let's see, I want this way. I'm gonna press, yeah, it's to make it nest with the next unit, but ooh, it is a bulky intersection. So I'll have to zap it with extra steam when I press the blocks and get that going the right way. Okay. 2 more seams and I'll have this block together. All of those intersections are really bulky. I'm just going to let that go because it's going to want to go the other way, I think. You can see how that's coming together. I didn't do a very good job there, but again, when I hold it back, that won't be quite as obvious. Okay, now you know, if you have any questions about quilting or what I'm working on or anything, just go ahead and ask in the chat and I will be sure to answer. Here is the full Nebraska block from Cotton Cuts Floral States of America. So I got Nebraska and Nevada done, plus my Clue 7 of Wild West. So very productive evening. Thank you so much for hanging out. To Annette and Patricia, who were very chatty with me, thank you for typing along. It's always nice to get that interaction, and I will be back here next week. I hope you have a great time and get a lot of quilting done. Take care.